Hi, I'm Stephanie Allen Krauss, and I'm going to teach you today about traditional rug hooking. So to begin the technique of traditional rug hooking, you need certain equipment. Let's take a look at the equipment before we talk about the technique. I have a wooden frame. You can see it has a nice base to it and it's raised up. And this is a nice basic frame. And of course you need a hook. So this is the type of hook I'm using today. It has a little crochet hook end and a wooden handle that makes it easier to hang on to. So those are the things that you really need to have. Then of course you have to have a pattern or some kind of a backing to hook into. Traditional rug hooking uses wool fabric cut into strips. And I'll show you that in just a minute, but first let's get our backing, our linen backing set up on our frame, and I'm just using big binder clips for this type of frame. There are all different kinds of frames out on the market, but this is a nice simple way to start. This particular frame sells for $35, which is usually manageable for most pocketbooks. Now I'm pulling my backing tight on here, but it doesn't have to be so tight that that you really have to struggle with these clips. I call this traditional rug hooking as opposed to, say, the punch needle technique of rug hooking, which uses wool yarn, and that's a whole different technique. There's also a rug making technique called latch hooking, and many of you may remember latch hooking from your childhood and doing small craft projects using thin and short strips of yarn. That's something different than what we're doing today. Traditional rug hooking, as I said, uses this hook, okay? And I'm going to grab my strip of wool fabric. So I have a machine that cuts these into these nice even strips. When you're holding your hook, you can either palm hold it or you can pencil hold it. Either way is perfectly fine. Now if you're a right-handed person, you're going to hold your tool in your right hand and your left hand holds the strip underneath. Okay? If you're a left-handed person, you're going to hold your hook in your left hand, and of course your strip is in the right hand underneath, and you're going to work in a slightly different direction. So since I'm a right-handed person, I'm going to go back to using the hook in my right hand. So right hand on top, left hand underneath. As I push my hook in, I can feel where it is underneath, and I'm gonna show you what I'm doing on the top here. So this is what I'm doing underneath. As I push the hook in, I can feel where it comes through, and then I'm just going to lay that strip onto the hook end to pull it up to the top. So here we go. I'll push my hook in, feel where it is, and I pull an end up. And you always want to start with your tail or your end up on the top. This is the front part or the top part of the rug that you're working on, or the hooked piece. So again, I'm going to skip a hole and push my hook in, feel where it is, and pull a loop up to the top. I'm going to skip a hole. I might even skip 2 holes because this is kind of a wide strip. Now I want you to take a look underneath to see what I'm doing, and I'm going to hold my frame in hold my frame up a little bit so that you can see what my hands are doing. So my left hand is holding the strip, okay? My right hand is pushing that hook down in. You can see my hook, and my hand feels where it's coming through, and then I'm going to lay that strip over the hook end, pull that loop up to the top. Let me do it one more time so you can see. Okay, here comes the hook. There it is. I can feel it. I'm going to lay that strip over the top of the hook, pull a loop up to the top. Okay, come on up to the top again, and let's take a look at pulling loops. Push my hook in, pull my loop up. Push my hook in, pull my loop up. Now I'm going to kind of exaggerate my motion here because you always want to remember to pull back toward the previous loop, just like that, because if you pull in any other direction, you're going to pull your previous loops out. So again, you want to remember to pull back toward that previous loop. And you want to make sure too that you don't try to fill every hole. It would be too packed in there. So I want my loops to be touching but not super crammed right in. I'm skipping sometimes one, sometimes two holes. Now I'm just about at the end of the strip. So I'll pull up that tail. So you'll notice that I started and I ended with my tails on top here. And I'm going to go back and grab another strip. Let's see here. Grab a strip. And we're going to start again, but this time we're going to go right into the same hole that we ended with. In I go, pull up an end, like so, skip a hole, pull my loop up. Feel where that hook is underneath, pull a loop to the top. And I'm going to keep going. It's much easier for a right-handed person to work from right to left, and for a left-handed person to work from left to right. Because the natural motion of my hand to pull back, it's comfortable to kind of roll my wrist that way or to pull back this way, to pull back. So that sort of helps the technique a little bit for a right-handed person. Okay, I'm going to end right there. I want my loops to be about as high as the strip is wide. Let me say that again. I want my loops to be as high as the strip is wide. So I'm going to check that by laying that strip right next to the loops. Yep, my loops are just about the same height as the strip is wide. So that's how I can check that out. When you have enough loops in and around those tails, you can grab a nice sharp pair of scissors and go back and clip those tails level with the loops. And they'll tuck right down in beside the loops and be completely protected. When you finish your hooking, you're going to steam press the whole thing with a hot iron and a damp cloth on both sides, on the back and the front. That's going to help to lock your loops in place. So right now, I could certainly pull my loops out, not a problem. But at the very end, when all my hooking is done, my project is completed, all the hooking is where it needs to be, and I steam press it, it will be much more difficult to pull my loops out because they'll sort of felt together with that ironing process. Okay, I think that's about all I have for you today for beginning rug hooking. So I hope you have fun.